Hello, I'm Charlie Solhurst and welcome to your latest update here. Now, it is Tuesday the 9th of June and what I want to talk about is the George Floyd protest. Now, as I mentioned, George Floyd died in Minneapolis just over 2 weeks ago on the 25th of May after Derek Chauvin kneeled on him for 7 minutes and choked him to death. Now, it sparked protests around the world in Minneapolis, in New York City, and also around the UK as well. Now, my initial view on this is that you need to say no to racial injustice. People should not be racist to others, and the BAME community is one of the highest affected groups in COVID-19. This group is one of the most at risk. They're two times more likely to die because of their culture, and I have to say, I was very, very livid with some of the protests in London on Saturday and Sunday. Over 65 arrests had to be made in total regarding with police custody. It was just horrible. I think 36 arrests one day, 35 the other. Unfortunately, some of the police officers didn't take it seriously. Dan Carissa-Dick said to people, "It's your right to protest," whilst other police officers said that it's just not on at all. And some of the police officers were being too overzealous, and some were being absolutely fine. Now, of course, we saw the news in London. We saw mass gatherings, some gatherings of over 10,000 people in London. Southend there was a few hundred as well, but most of them were social distancing. The government have advised people to take part against mass gatherings more than 6 people, but this was a organisation, a Marxist essentially, an organisation run by people, and they're promoting these demonstrations. The scenes I saw at the weekend were terrifying. People not following the social distancing guidelines. We saw the cenotaph in London. That was literally someone set fire to a Union Jack. We also had the scenes in near the cenotaph where Winston Churchill's statue getting graffitied. Saying he's racist, defacing historical monuments and historical artifacts as well. It's just hot. It is just completely disorderly behaviour. Frankly, lawless as well. You're breaking the law when you do that. You should not be spraying and graffitiing on historical artefactual pieces of British history. It's certainly not great. And there was total anarchy in London at the weekend. As I said, with the 65 arrests, 135 police officers were injured. And unfortunately, one police officer got seriously injured after she fell off a horse after protesters swarmed up to the horse. Frankly, she is recovering, which is good to hear. But some police officers were seriously injured after protesters barricaded the corridors and barged past them. And there was so much violence. Protesters were throwing missiles at police officers. The Prime Minister said to protest peacefully. But what we saw on the weekend, especially Sunday, was complete and utter disarray of public opinion snapping on this movement. People throwing missiles, starting off arson attacks, making fires. It is ridiculous. This is like the London riots of 2011 all over again. It is stupid. People should not be doing these things. It's illegal. It's illegal. You're illegally flouting lockdown, and plus you're illegally breaking the law as well. Most of these legislations have been approved for royal assent. You're breaking the rule of law. The rule of law is to always treat each other, and it's a part of the Equalities Act as well, because the Equalities Act is treating everybody equally. And the death of George Floyd has sparked huge protests on black people, particularly BAME, black Asian ethnic minorities, who are twice more likely to die from COVID-19 than any other culture in the UK and around the world. It is horrible. I will feel really sorry for them. And you've got to treat everybody with respect. And to see protesters then throwing a statue of Edward Colston in Bristol onto the floor and then chucking it into the harbour, that was thuggery for you right there. They were robbers, people stealing money, thefting the statue, and then to chuck it in the harbour and then go like that. That is not a win. That is a shame. It's a huge problem. It is frankly disorderly behaviour, frankly meaningful. People should not be attempting thuggery. We have a democracy in this country. We need to give everyone the chance to vote. But at the moment, this is not treating democracy at all. It's racial justice, and the amount of xenophobia I heard at the weekend was dreadful. There was so many xenophobic comments about black people. It's not great. You need to always treat each other equally. Xenophobia, you've got to say no to xenophobia. I know how people feel right now, and to see that statue of a 16th century statue of a Edward Colston, that slave trader being chucked into Bristol Harbour, it was frankly horrifying, frankly mortifying to see that scene. And most of the protesters weren't even wearing face coverings. Some were, some weren't. Were not, unfortunately. And it was horrible. I was left literally feeling very livid and certainly very disgusted at the number of people who turned up at them protests. And to see some violence going on with missiles, rockets, all that kind of stuff being thrown at police. The police officers do our job. They are there to protect us. No wonder why we saw law enforcement on Sunday. Police officers having to break up and disperse gatherings, which is exactly what they've had to do under this new coronavirus legislation that was approved by Parliament back in March. But the scenes at the weekend were just dreadful. And I mean, not just here, around the world. New York City, I remember in New York, a 75-year-old man had to be taken to hospital after four police officers pushed him over. I mean, this is essentially defunding our police forces. And frankly, you should not be treating police forces with this much violence, this much dishonesty. All the behaviour I saw on Sunday was frankly rogue behaviour. People thinking they're thugs, thinking they're absolutely invincible and can get away with anything, well, you're not. This Black Lives Matter movement is something that needs to stop, because day after day we are seeing protests, and the more protests we have, the more people that gather, the more nerve-wracking this country's coronavirus response will be. And trust me, if people start gathering in large groups, especially 10,000, we will have another spike of COVID-19 in this country. We do not want that. We want these protests to end. We want to get Britain back to work. But we can't do this if people are racially abusing other walks of life, other cultures, with xenophobic comments. Xenophobia should not be used. I hate racism. Racism is something that is really the wrong thing to do. Racial injustice is something that any country does not want to have. This is a terrorist attack, this is, in London, and it is continuing as of this speak. What is the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, doing? He has not been even responsible for any of this. Fine about COVID-19, but against this is where Sadiq Khan should be stepping in as the Mayor of London, telling people to stop protesting, to say to them, this is frankly lawless behaviour, because the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition have both expressed their concerns. We need Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, to at least show some more enthusiasm, getting in on the act and saying that these protests are frankly dangerous and it will lead to a spike in hate crime. This will lead a spike into hate crime. More people will start racially abusing and about people that essentially how the way people look, and we don't want to see that. We don't want to see hate crime in the UK. Crime has gone down since the lockdown's been on, but it's now rising again because of these protests. Before I go, I would like to say this. Black Lives Matter. Please reflect on the weekend as being very, very negative. This country has never experienced anything like this for years. To see huge protests and riots, it's frankly shameful. I want you guys to know that and we definitely mourn the loss of George Flloyd, who was a great person. I want you guys to know that George Floyd's death will forever be remembered. Thank you for watching. Click the subscribe button to subscribe to my channel, and ring the bell notification, and you'll be alerted with new videos every day. Thank you for listening. Take care. Goodbye.